Call the meeting to order. And people are filing in here. We're going to begin with an invocation. So if you could remove your hats, we'll start with that. I think we're getting close to the end here.
There's some more room up here. You guys want to file in to your left.
Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for this evening and the freedoms that we have as we're reminded tonight with this class as they see our preamble. I ask that you would bless this meeting. We thank you for the leadership here, and may all that we say and do give you glory and be in line with your word. In your precious name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening? Move to approve the agenda. Second. We have a motion by Commissioner Hutchison, second by Commissioner Wentz to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, next, we'll move on to proclamations, recognitions, and presentations. Okay, we'll start with the Constitution Week proclamation. Whereas it is a privilege and duty of the American people to commemorate the 238th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America with appropriate ceremonies and activities. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, I, Amy Jackson, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Concordia, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week, and urge all citizens to study the Constitution and reflect on the privilege of being American with all the rights and responsibilities which that privilege involves. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Concordia to be affixed the 17th day of September of the year of our Lord, 2025. Okay, next we'll have Alice Bashand of the Daughters of the American Revolution come up and present.
Good evening. I'm Alice Bashand, representing the Nathan and chapter Daughters of the American Revolution. The United States Constitution is America's most important document. Constitution Week is celebrated annually during the week of September 17th through 23rd to commemorate its history, importance, and bring attention to how it still serves today. This celebration of the Constitution was started by the National Society, Daughters of the American Revolution. The observance of Constitution Week was signed into Public Law 915 on August 2nd, 1956 by President Dwight D. Eisenhower. Thank you for taking the time to celebrate the Constitution of the United States of America. And we would like to thank the teachers at Concordia Elementary School, fourth graders. Some of you may remember me as Miss Alice at the library. Okay. Especially, and some of you may remember me as a teacher, former student here. So thank you very much for wanting to participate in this. Parents, thank you for supporting your children to come here to recite the preamble. And now I will leave it to your teachers. Thank you.
We the people of the United States morning, Virginia, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, by the common defense, for the severe blessings of liberty, your love and our prosperity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America.
You want to stay, you can. Want to leave, yeah.
Thank you for coming. And I'm organized.
Thank you. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Take a picture of you while you're. Oh. Beautiful.
There's all the energy. Want this left open?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, next we have public comments. This is the time where citizens are encouraged to speak publicly. We request that you come to the podium, state your name and address, and speak respectfully. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Nobody online? Okay. Seeing no one from the public to make a comment, we'll move on to the discussion agenda, the Community Activity Center. And commissioners will start this discussion, but I know Chris will want to be in here for a good portion of it. Do you want to switch Chris spots?
Oh, I don't.
It's true.
Yes. All right, so during your last meeting, we talked a little bit about where we were at with the project and let you know that the blueprint to build, the kind of the rules of the game had changed a little bit to change things. And so as a result of that meeting, you'd asked us to step back from that grant and then also to go back and look at a scope decrease and a cost decrease to really drive things down, answer a few questions and bring those back to you. So that's the intent of this evening. I believe that this memo and some supporting documentation were emailed to you separate from the agenda. I don't know that we got the agenda packet republished, but this item was on the discussion agenda, so that's why we didn't need to modify it. In your memo, you have a listing of some of the items there. The strategic doing committee, and it felt like the commission also really liked the reduced plan layout of the blueprint to build building. So if you recall, we go back to 2024. We started out with a feasibility study done by Jones, Gill and Bruns. We started out with a 54,000 square foot facility. We were hitting that $17 to $20 million range at that point in time. Then when Blueprint to Build came in, they came in with a facility that was slightly smaller. We decided to add the block showing or indicating a dedicated pickleball space to that. We landed on 35,000 square feet and 17 million was where we had landed there. So we started with the base of the Blueprint to Build large community center plan because that's what we had already talked about in our public hearing. We had talked about that with the strategic doing committee. That was the one that everybody kind of agreed still had the program and spaces that we wanted to include. Because we stepped away from the Blueprint to Build grant, we were able to visit directly with Hutton. They were the designers of that plan, and with their contract with Commerce, if you were engaged in Blueprint to Build, you weren't able to talk with them about finishing out the project. So since we had stepped back from that, we were able to visit with them. They confirmed that no money was in that $8.9 million initial price tag for site improvements. That's why they were going to prepare the 75% bridging documents. Then we would have to hire our own local architect to fit it to our site and finish that out. So if you'll see in your memo, large Blueprint to Build community center plan was just the basic plan that was already online. We added $1 million in for site improvements after consultation with Hutton, and based on the size of our project and what we had available with utilities and how flat our land was there. So with just that basic plan, we're at 9.9 million. The ad alternates that are listed in the memo reflect what we have discussed as far as customizing the space to Concordia. So for the last several years, in addition to gyms and a multi-purpose room and some space for what we would like to be as a tot lot, we have asked for some tot lot jungle gym equipment, which is ad alternate. It's labeled number 2 here, but it should be number 3. I apologize for that. Ad alternate number 1 was adding dedicated pickleball courts. The cost associated with that is estimated at $1.2 million. That would be if we kept that. If you recall from the last plan, we had a blue block of space attached to the basic Blueprint to Build plan. That's what would be the 1.2 million. Adding an elevated walking track would be about 700,000 or 0.7 million. And that includes the walking track structure, surface, as well as the elevator that would be necessary to get up to that point. Adding the equipment for a tot lot jungle gym. So recall again in that basic Blueprint to Build large community facility floor plan, they had a space that they had listed as a fitness center. We had decided that we did not want to compete with our 3 local privately owned fitness centers. And so we decided to repurpose that space for the tot lot jungle gym, but we still need to equip it. In the original estimate, Hutton confirmed that they did not have any money in that original 8.9 million estimate for fitness center equipment. So regardless of if we would go fitness center or tot lot, we would have to pay for additional equipment. So that's where the 0.3 million or 300,000 would come in. During the public hearing, the question came up too about what would it take to make the gyms CASA compliant. And then we discussed that a little bit during the September 3rd meeting as well. So we had a lengthy conversation with Hutton about that. They actually went back to their estimators and their designers, and they came up with a price tag of 3.9 million to make it CASA compliant. So from the starting point of the gyms of the basic large community facilities, that one was designed like a very similar to if you put 2 gyms together from the Salina Fieldhouse. So full-size courts, but it would be a sport court flooring, a curtain down the middle, seating for about 250 people only. To make it CASA compliant, you add a wooden floor, which has its own price tag of about 250,000. And seating is where we really get into the big cost, because you have to add seating, then you have to push the walls out a little bit further. You add basic bleacher seating, and then you need to also, by code, then add some locker rooms, add plumbing fixtures for public restrooms, enhance the HVAC because you're creating space for more people, and add additional lobby space. And so that all of those things combined together is where we get 3.9 million. It's not just the gym box itself, but it's those ripple effects that cause that additional cost. Additionally, you'll see 0.3 million in there for furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So this would be if you needed an office desk or an office chair. This would be if you needed tables and chairs to go into the multi-purpose space to handle meetings or concessions or things of that nature. It would also be if you needed, can't think of, we talked about like portable pickleball nets and things like that. So all of that would go into that furniture, fixtures, and equipment. Anything that's not attached to the building is what would be in this number. An owner contingency of about 0.3 million or another 300,000. Again, that's at the recommendation of Hutton, of the designer there.
We've done owner contingencies a lot on a lot of our other projects, and that just means there's gonna be things that are gonna come up that we're not gonna be aware of. So if we make sure that we budget and allocate funds toward that, it makes our lives easier on the back end if we do run into those. If we don't need it, that's great, we had planned for it, but if we don't need it, that's wonderful, we don't have to use it. Then there's also a site contingency, and that was a recommendation of Hutton as well. Again, they don't really know what they're getting into on our site. They haven't studied it completely. No architect would study our site in detail if they weren't engaged in us in a formal contract. And so this is just saying, based on what we see on your aerial photo, what you're telling us from your data, we would suggest just putting some money in there. Same thing again, it's an owner contingency. If it's not needed, it doesn't get spent. We don't look for ways to spend that. We look for ways to make sure that we don't spend that. Design fees of 6 to 8%. And those are gonna, because they're a percentage, they're gonna depend on what ad alternates you select. So that's why we didn't put a hard number in the memo for that. These numbers are also based on using a design build delivery method. So there's different delivery methods. We traditionally do design bid build. So that's where we engage the engineer, the architect, they design it, they put it out to bid, we take sealed bids, we get those. And then if there's any changes that come along, we handle those by change orders. That was the required delivery method under Blueprint to Build because we were using federal funds through CDBG, and that's what the requirement for those federal funds are. And that's part of what was driving that cost up. That has become a more expensive delivery method now. Contractors like to use more negotiated prices. They like to use the construction manager at risk delivery method. They like to use design build. They like to the contractors want to get in earlier on the project, in part because they believe that they can help us to save money. By working through the design, they can address conflicts when there's still lines on paper and not bricks and mortar in the air. And so that's become more customary now because we work in the governmental realm. We don't often get this opportunity. Now that we've stepped back from those grants, we're able to take those opportunities. So we looked at the difference, and again, talking with Hutton, between construction manager at risk, which would require separate design services. So you'd have to have 2 contracts and marry them together, versus the design build contract, where we would have one contract with a company that did both. And that could look 2 different ways. It could look the same as a Concordia or a Hutton or a large company that has the services together in-house. It could look like a partnership. It could be Jones Gill and Bruns partnering with the BHS construction under a design build contract, and then one of them chooses to take the lead. What a design build contract would do for us is allow us one contract with the designer and the contractor. It would get them both on board early, just like a construction manager at risk, but we would have one point of contact. And so if we ran into a conflict with one or the other group of those, they have to work it out together. We don't have to play middleman between them, which reduces a lot of stress on our part. We love the idea of getting them in early. And so this proposal recommends a design build contract, and we would go out for proposals with those. It would be competitively selected, and the fees associated with that are 6 to 8%. So if you'll recall back the last time we brought this to you, we had 2 6 to 8% fees, one for the design professional, one for the contractor. So by going this method, we're actually saving probably 6 to 8%. There might be some other things in here that we don't know yet until we get into it. But on the surface, it looks like we could probably save 6% by doing this delivery method. For if you'll recall, by stepping away from Blueprint to Build, we also saved that grant administration fee, and we also saved Davis-Bacon wages, which we estimated about 15%. So all in all, we were able to drive these costs down quite a bit. We still could not hit the 10 million unless we just went the straight basic plan that was presented as part of the Blueprint to Build. But this is kind of where we landed as far as an effort to reduce the cost and the scope. Any questions so far?
I do. I can wait for it though for the broader conversations.
Okay, that's fine. Let's see. As we visited with Hutton, there were 2 other sketches that were included in the information that we had emailed out to you. One was a floor plan, and it looked a lot like the Blueprint to Build floor plan, but its intent was to show you what the gym would look like if it was CASHA compliant. Now, again, Hutton did this very, very quickly. They really were working hard to help us out. Their contact shared with me that normally a week's worth of their architectural and estimating services would cost us about $5,000. We indicated to them that we had a lot less than that left in our pool from our grant that we received for our feasibility study, and I asked what they could do for that amount. So they provided this sketch within about a 2 to 3 day turnaround from the time that we were able to contact them. taking into consideration their workload and their folks being out of town. They also were able to provide an interior rendering of what that gym would look like. So to help you kind of visualize and bring it to life for you a little bit. The interior of that kind of reminds me a little bit of what the center at Hoisington looks like. If you've been out there, the rows of bleachers, the walking track above and the courts there. Because they did this quickly, they didn't show all of the lines on the court, but if you can visualize one side of those bleachers pushed in, there's still room on that space for 2 dual volleyball courts or 2 dual basketball courts. So again, quick and dirty stuff. Basically where we're at right now, we won't get a full picture of exactly what we want until we make some decision points related to the scope of program of spaces and what we want in here and the price point that we want to get to. Then we will also have to engage formally with a design professional to get to exactly where we want. But right now we've got between this and kind of what we've talked about already, we have something close to represent to share with the public, but this is what we have right now. Since the September 3rd meeting, we also worked to update the city's webpage related to Community Activities Center. We did establish a fund to accept grant awards and any donations. Recall that we had talked about that. Ideally, we would set up a fund within the Community Activities or the Community Foundation for Cloud County to be able to accept those grant awards. Talking with Brenda, she would prefer to wait until we know that we are for sure going forward with this project. And for us, that, and sometimes I'm misspeaking here, but for us, that really looks like a successful sales tax vote on November 4th. That's going to be a big test of whether the public truly supports this or not. We got all indicators of good support during our public hearing, but the real test is going to be that sales tax vote. So if we have, and in the meantime, we need to start our fundraising. We need to start working toward that. So in order to be able to say yes and accept those donations that people want to give to us, we have to have a fund in a place to hold those monies. That would also be the same fund that if we're awarded any grants, those funds would be put in there. And then if we issue bonds toward this to be able to fund the construction up front, those would also go into that same pot. So that's where that can be held. We have visited with bond counsel regarding timeline for bond issuance and an amount once determined. So timelines can be done and actually would look pretty favorable right now because interest rates are hovering right around 4 to 4.5% for 15 to 20-year bonds. A 10-year bond actually has a higher interest rate, and so it would cost us more each year in interest. So if we looked at that 15 to 20 year, we can still pay it off early starting at year 7. So that's attractive. But would actually save us in the long run if we set it up that way. Interest rates are expected to go down by about 0.5% toward year end, which timing would work well. If the sales tax vote is successful on November 4th, then we would start working with bond counsel toward a December, January issuance so we could capitalize on that interest rate savings at the sale. We've begun preparation of grant applications. We can start that process based on what we've done so far, but we can't complete and submit those until we make some decisions as far as what our space looks like and what our target number is. And then we'll also be meeting soon with the representatives from the Strategic Doing Committee to make sure they've got the most accurate information and direction from you to be able to begin their fundraising work. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Again, we're kind of looking down the road at November. Chris, what have I missed so far? Open it up for discussion and go from there.
The question that I had, and I apologize because I should know the answer to this. When we're looking at Acacia, is that for regular season? Is it different expectations for postseason?
Regular
It doesn't
season.
matter.
No, regular season and postseason. So the only guidance that's given for true postseason is a minimum seating requirement and side-by-side dual courts for volleyball for postseason. Other than that, it's the same in regular season as it is postseason, and it's the same for junior high as it is for high school.
The seating requirements.
And they might be, I can't speak for them, they might be more lenient during regular season, because as you know, junior high used to play at elementary, and I don't know what their seating number specifically is, but I think it is smaller than the 600 per court that we're told now, but those are specific for tournament for sure, but regular season might be more lenient, but
Because I think
can't speak for them.
in my opinion, I think having a court that is going to be familiar for our students to practice on and to play on is important. I think I don't want to take the place of the school, and I want to be supportive of any effort that the school has moving forward to have their own facilities. So my intention was not so much for this to take the place of that, but to be able to support school events and our student athletes, really making it a community center. So that's kind of, I guess, where my question is, if we can achieve that outcome without spending $4 million to do so, I mean, that's my goal. It's not, I don't necessarily have, and I'm not necessarily hearing people say that they want this to be that postseason, like having it to be able to facilitate that's grander in scale than what would really be necessary for this to be a community activity center, but still want to be able to support the student athletes. So that's where that question is coming from. If we would be able to get by with that, knowing that it's not intended to be that host facility, postseason, but just to support our junior high athletes primarily.
Yeah.
And high school students are going to play in the.
We've talked about this too, and obviously we can't speak for USD 3330, but they still have needs on their campus, and from across town, it doesn't really make sense to be their home site, if you will, in my mind.
Right.
So still doesn't address what they need.
So is this needed then? Like, is it?
Well, if we go back to the reason that we started exploring this, that it's more than just the gyms. So we'll say, yes, we need additional gym space, and that's evidenced by the timing and how difficult it is to get into the school's gyms for recreation programming, as well as for our youth, as well as our adults, and then the travel programs that the parents have set up too.
Yeah. Do we need Keisha gyms?
We need Keisha gym. So when we first started this, and I think we would argue that we really want this to be a community first facility. So in order to support rec programming, youth programming, adult programming, as well as youth tournaments, we wouldn't need it to be fully Keisha compliant with seating. We could see some value in upgrading to the wooden floor. That's a $250,000 ad. We believe that's realistic and achievable. That would give consistency in practice if the students did come over and practice on the court. It would be a little bit different maintenance, but we could adjust and adapt. Keeping to that smaller price tag, keeping to that smaller scale would also allow us to fully embrace the other program spaces that the community has said that they wanted, which is the Tot Lot Jungle Gym to help support our daycares, the multi-purpose space to help support anything from library programming, KSU extension programming, that sort of thing. The elevated walking track, which I know that there's been a recent survey done showing that walking is one of the primary forms of exercise for our community. And we know that if we want to promote health and wellness, getting people out to exercise is good. So having that walking track is there. Not only does it provide that walking space for people in inclement weather, but it can also serve as additional spectator viewing space if we do host some kind of a tournament on the gym floors. Dedicated pickleball space is one that the pickleball group has really asked for ever since they started. If we decide that we need to drive those costs down by that 1.2 million, we could put those lines on the volleyball and basketball courts and share that space. And each side would probably have to compromise a little bit on usage, but it could be accomplished. Maybe the dedicated pickleball courts could be added later. If we can afford it and provide it, though, it does provide additional time and opportunity for all groups to be able to optimize the use of their space as well. Did that answer your question, Ashley?
And I think that's kind of where my mind is moving towards, that if we can achieve with the item here for the 13.8 plus 250 for the wood floor, that might allow us to still support our school events without it being. So when I said 10 million in Keisha compliant, maybe Brenda or others, like that's what I'm hearing, right? That's what people are wanting. But if we can support our students in that way, and we provide a court for them that would replicate their playing surfaces and might support the school like that to augment that gets us a lot closer to the price that we're working towards, and it's able to achieve what we were really setting out for. Because in my mind, that becomes the most viable option we have. It gives us the most options for the lowest price, all things considered. And that's because that's what we're really trying to go, is to get this to be a product, an offering that our community is gonna support. Because none of this matters if we don't get community buy-in. So in order to try to achieve that, this I think gives us a better option to do that.
I also think too, you know, that when I hear about making it CASHA compliant, to me, that means if that's a push, then the school district would have to commit to not adding gyms on their projects. Cause it can't be, you have to do it this way here, and then also we're gonna go ahead and do this in the future. Then I think that was a problem in the last bond issue was, you know, we know what the problem was. So if to have CASHA, you almost need a commitment that we aren't gonna touch gyms, we're just gonna focus on education. And that's not fair of us to ask them, but additionally, then it's not fair to ask the other way.
Right.
So, but yours is such a nice compromise. I agree.
It definitely does support the community, and when we say support the schools, we're supporting the youth with programming. There would be opportunities, like, let's say that all of the gyms are in use for competition or concerts or whatever else. We could schedule and provide some practice support space as well. So there's a lot of opportunities for continued shared facilities use. Just beefs up and enhances and actually takes the pressure off the gym space of the school. Having worked on the operations side for several years down in Saline, I can tell you, especially high school gymnasiums get used a ton. And to be able to allow some pressure off of those to be able to properly maintain and care for them is really, really good. So that helps out tremendously. Did we talk about cost and bonding at all yet? A little bit briefly.
Just that it'd be cheaper to do it over a longer term and pay it off early.
Okay. From an annual cash flow perspective, what our bond advisor had shared with us is that if we had a 10-year bond at $10 million, because of that higher interest rate for that shorter term, it would cost us about 1.3 million a year to repay those bonds. Now, if you'll recall back to that chart that Amber prepares that tracks sales tax and where we are, for the last 5 years for sure, we have been between it's been 1.2 to 1.6 billion, and we've been trending upward the whole time. So they can talk with bond advisor, and they budget conservatively like we do. They understand us in that way. So he had suggested that we focus on estimate about 1.5 million annually of revenue and sales tax for the foreseeable future. So not the 1.6 that we've seen, but conservatively 1.5. And then recall that sales tax question is for construction and maintenance and operations. We've said that we'd like to reserve about 200,000 a year for maintenance and operations. We estimate that it will cost about 178,000 a year to actually operate it. Again, we're estimating conservatively. So that would leave us 1.5 minus 200,000 would leave us at 1.3 annually. So if we did that 10-year bond for $10 million, that would push us right up against that limit. So again, being conservative, he said if we would stretch that bond out to 15 years, our annual cash flow or our annual repayment would be $1 million. And so that would give us a little bit of cushion. So again, if we end up raising more than what we anticipate, we can start repaying that bond early after 7 years. We could pay it off early, and then you would still have your option to sunset that sales tax early once we've met our obligations. So I believe that meets your goals as well. So that's why we would look at a 15-year bond repayment schedule, even though the ordinance would say the sales tax is only in effect for 10 years and can still be sunsetted early. Does that make sense?
I think that it makes a lot of sense. I think we need to be real useful in how we communicate that.
Yes.
So the interest rate probably would be lower
Yes.
if we went.
That's what our bond advisor is sharing with us based on now rates, and then they expect them to drop a little lower at the end of the year.
But lower than 4.
0.5% lower. So if they're trending at 4 to 4.5, we would expect 3.5.
30-year note, paid off 15.
Is there a payoff requirement or where you can't pay off the 15-year loan until after 7 years? What is that for 10-year?
I did not ask that question.
The 10-year had an even higher rate.
Had a higher rate, but can you pay it off in 2 years if you
Yes.
have the money versus 7?
And I don't know, Amber, I've only worked with 20 and 30-year notes. Have you worked with anything less? It's always been 7, so I'm not sure. Yeah, if 7's a hard and fast rule, or if that's just be for 20 years. But he indicated for a 15-year note, we could pay it off at 7.
I'm gonna guess they're gonna want to hold it for 7, just to make sure that they get there.
What other questions do you guys have?
Am I allowed to ask a question?
No, Brenda.
Want to play by the rules? So Ted, specifically to you, because last time you said, from your people that you've been talking to, the 2 things were CASA compliant and 10 years. So based on what we said tonight, if you went back to your people, do you think what we're saying now with the not quite CASA compliant, but gyms that could be helpful, how do you think that would apply?
I think it would reduce some of the arguments they have, whether that makes it to where it's gonna truly lead to a favorable vote, I don't know. But I think it gets us a lot closer, and makes it a lot more viable of a project. I think it's achieving what we're trying to achieve while still being realistic, right? Because of being fully CASA compliant at $10 million, that's just not a realistic option, right? And I think that honestly, they know that.
And I'm not gonna lie, as I walked out of here last time, I was like, okay, how realistic is that when you just said cut it by 7 million, but also add on something that's gonna cost 3 million, so.
And that's the same conversation that I'm providing back, and I do recognize that the way that I'm moving in this is not necessarily the same that others are. So
Right.
just really wanting this to be a viable project, that's just what I'm hearing. And again, I think sometimes it's, depending on who you're having a conversation with, you can say, okay, well, we'll take care of this and this and this, so you're on board, right? Well, now we have other reasons why we're not on board. And so, I mean, I think sometimes for people that the answer is no, it'll always be no, no matter what. For the people whose answer is yes, it's gonna be yes, no matter what. But if we can, I think, gain the support of that, with that middle 60, is that kind of what we're talking about? That this gets us a lot closer to that.
I will say, not exactly that, but just before I was walking in, I was told that there is a lot of confusion that has just come up and word out there that you or we or whoever we want to call it has cut this down to where there's only one gym. And so there won't be room for pickleball. I think what happened, I don't know this, there is one gym, there are 2 courts. So we have to be very careful. I mean, it's one big room with 2 courts in it. So we have to be careful when we talk and eliminate that is floating around out there, that it's been cut down to 1, which obviously that makes the entire people that are in favor of it because of pickleball angry.
You know, I think, yeah, the marketing is we have one space that has 1 basketball court, 2 volleyball courts, 4 pickleball courts. Lot. I mean, it's one space that encompasses all of these things. The fact that some of these lines might be drawn on top of one another doesn't mean that it's not
Feasible.
multiple court space.
My question, but that 13.8 model, that has an additional space for.
Right.
That's it, that's
Yes.
tacked on.
Yes,
Yeah,
that has it in there, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, so I think that's what I would like to get direction from you guys.
Yeah.
If we can we walk through which of these ad alternates do you want on there? And then do you want the upgrade to the gym floor that I didn't pull out of these numbers?
If we're not going to do total CASA compliance, is there any point in insisting on the more expensive floor? I mean, one of the things that you have to do with a wood floor is you have to refinish it every so often. So that, I don't know what the situation is with a cork floor.
It's a kind of a rubberized floor. As it plays, the ones I've seen and the ones I've kind of researched are pretty similar to wood. They're not exactly the same. Wood's a little bit more hollow underneath, so.
But does it
But
have
there
to be
is-
refinished the way wood does?
I do think there is a clear coating on the newer ones. That specific, I don't know.
So it's not an artificial surface.
The Mondo is
It is,
artificial,
okay.
yes.
There's gonna be some maintenance and cleaning and refinishing of either one.
But to grab that traction as you would on a wood floor, and Amber and May, so you've probably been on a few of these with different places you've been, maybe not. There is kind of a clear lacquer finish than the old style rubber flooring. The new Mondo is made to replicate more than what it used to. But yes, a wood would have to be, depending on the usage of the community center our size, maybe every other year. High school does it every year. Obviously, they have students up there 8 months, 9 months out of the year. So they have a lot more heavy traffic. 12 to 15 years, right on a sanding rotation, but I think.
Normal high school floor would be 10 years on a standing and you get 4 standings. I think our usage would be less, we could get more out of that.
And I think there's also, and necessarily not wanting to commit anyone to this, but there could be some economy that we could achieve if we're working in partnership, or some sort of just supporting role, that there could be some economy when they're on their schedule that we could incorporate that here. Chrissy, to me, the return on investment for the wood floor, I think, makes it a viable expenditure. Because I think that in terms of being able to make this a more viable project, I think we're going to get a better return with having it be a wood floor, even if it's not a full CASHA compliant gymnasium, that it makes it worth it.
You know, like we said before, the seating is really the biggest CASHA holdback on their requirements, especially at postseason. You're gonna have more people come postseason tournaments, even little regular season tournament, junior high tournaments, stuff like that. So as unofficial seating, like this play will have, I mean, the walking track would be still viewing space and stuff like that. So like I said, I can't speak for school, but that would allow more possibility for them, the usage and cooperation.
And I think postseason should be at the school. I mean, that's their,
Neat atmosphere.
right, that's what it's there for.
For example, I mean, speaking volleyball for junior high as a tournament this weekend, one to go. I mean, little things like that is still accommodated. So you can have for different draws on attendance.
Amy, would it be enough to say to move forward with that 13.8 and have an option of the wood floor? I mean, this isn't a decision that has to be made immediately, and might even be somewhat useful to have as a talking point. Is it a big deal? Or like you said, does it not matter? You're not gonna have the support anyway. So I understand the ROI on it. So is that a possibility? Does that give you enough? And did the rest of the commission, do you think that has the original things people wanted, the tot lot, the track, the pickleball edition.
I think that's
Back to
give us the
basics.
closest
Yeah.
in all the boxes.
Yeah. Separate pickleball.
So that's
Separate pickleball, just separate.
Dedicated.
Dedicated.
Dedicated. It's there.
the words.
Okay, my only, I guess, question along those lines is where, with regards to grants and fundraising, to get that number just to be lower up front. With grants and fundraising, there's gonna be, grants or fundraising that people are only gonna be, specific. So like daycare aware might support the tot lot. The hospital would potentially, or, Salina Regional would maybe potentially support, the walking track being a benefit. So, with that being said, would it make sense to get the price lower and still have everything there to make some of those additions fundraise only, or just to lump it all together?
I think from a constructability standpoint, construction efficiency standpoint, we're gonna have to build it all. But one of the next things on our list to do is to get a naming rights policy. So in addition to seeking grants and fundraising, being able to offer those naming rights. So let's say that right now we have a wooden floor upgrade as an ad alternate. It's $250,000. If organization B, you want to donate $250,000, you can have that court named after you, and that would be naming rights. So I guess what I'm saying is we need to plan to build it all together, design it all together, but as far as where the funds come from to pay for each individual spot, we can figure that out later. That's fine. We still know that If we're at 13.8 and we add 250, we're at about 14.1, 14.2. That's our target number that we need to get to. If commission, if you choose to bond 10, then we have 4 million in grants and fundraising that we have to do. And that's kind of where the round numbers are that we need to be. But yes, we can make fundraise components. I'll go back to the hospital. The hospital built everything that it was, and then they said, okay, community, if you want the MRI building and facility, you've got to fundraise and you have to step up, and here's your time frame to do it to make it work. And the community stepped up and said that was important that we did it. So I think that there are opportunities to do that here. An upgrade to a wooden floor makes a really, really good sense to be able to do that.
And on top of that, I mean, most of the grants, and correct me if I'm wrong, are more generalized or specific when you're applying for them. And until a contract signed with construction and engineer, correct me if I'm wrong, it doesn't really tie you into what their specifics are, which won't come till by the time you're ready to build and everything's secured anyway. So, like our sales tax was construction and operations, stated. So the grants that we would be applying for would be specific, equipment or, areas like you're saying too. So that would drive the construction cost down. If we could take that off of, like, say a Hutton or McCown one, that would drive their cost down if those pieces were taken care of elsewhere.
We do the walking track, we have to construct the foundation such that they can support the walking track now. If this is a pre-engineered metal building, ordering the metal structure for the walking track at the same time makes economical sense. So you wouldn't want to say that we'll only do that if we raise these funds, as an example. But, yeah.
And then with regards to operating expenses, I guess, it seems as though property taxes, it's not part of this equation. In this, we are planning for operating expenses to be covered, but for how long? If that eventually becomes a property tax thing, would that by itself increase property taxes for people to support the operations and maintenance of this?
I think that decision falls back to the commission. So what this plan does with respect to maintenance and operations is buys us 10 years to get that figured out and settled. So whether that is 10 years of doing fundraising toward this and putting it into a fund that generates enough passive income to support this, that's great. If it helps us to figure out what our rental income is, that helps to support operations. If it helps us to figure out how to increase the tax base, and Tim's in here, and I constantly have conversations about that. How do we get that up so that we can keep our mill levy at a reasonable rate for our residents, while still generating additional income to do the things that they want to have available to them. And that means getting more buildings, more homes here to help spread that love out. But we have 10 years to get that figured out. And then we come back to the commission and say, here's what we've done over the last 10 years, and here's what we can do to continue to operate at the level that we're operating at. Maybe that gives us 10 years to find a corporate partner that wants to help to support the continued operations, because the work that we've done over the last 8 years has been really good with the facility. But we're going to have to actively work over those 10 years to make all that happen.
Well, if there's, I guess, no opposition to be the third option with the potential, that doesn't necessarily have to be decided, but the wood court as an option, does that sound like the most reasonable thing that still really includes everything that the original plan included, with the exception of being Keisha?
That's the option.
If that's acceptable to everyone, then that's what we'll move forward on. So that's what we'll use for our scope to apply for grants. That's what we'll talk with the strategic doing committee as they work their fundraising, and that's how we'll prepare the RFQ to go out for design build services then. And is that design build delivery method, are you guys okay with seeking that method?
If that's the most viable option, I agree with you. CRM, I'm saying that right. I like the flexibility of that, but ultimately, what gives us the best options is being the viable product. That's the good.
Any direction on? Thank you guys very much. Thank you for listening well to your constituents and asking those hard questions. I know it's not easy. So thank you very much, very much.
We appreciate the receptiveness and feedback. I think it helps us have a path moving forward.
Next, we have the minutes of this, I'm sorry, the action agenda. Minutes of the September 3rd, 2025 meeting.
Move to approve the minutes of the September 3rd, 2020.
Second,
We have a motion by Commissioner Hutchison, second by Commissioner Hash to approve the minutes of September 3rd, 2025. Any further discussion? All in favor?
aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next is appropriation ordinance number 17.
I move to approve appropriation ordinance 17.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wentz, second by Commissioner Hutchison to approve appropriation ordinance number 17. Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Resolution 2025. 2025-2211, support for housing tax credit application.
Mayor and Commissioners, back in May, we approved a development agreement with TransEquity Development Inc. to support development of 11 duplex structures on East 11th Street. And that project is moving forward. As part of the agreement, we agreed to help them out with everything through the zoning and plating and permitting review process. We agreed to support an RHID. TransEquity is now coming forward to us and asking to apply for our support to apply for Kansas Housing Investor Tax Credits to support the development. And this passage of this resolution is one of the formal requirements for their application. Dennis Hoth and Doug Hutchison are online on Zoom. They can answer questions and they can help to kind of explain the process and what all is required. So Dennis, do you have anything that you want to share, or Doug?
No, Mayor and council members really appreciate the opportunity to come to Concordia and try and help with affordable housing issues that are plaguing most smaller communities. But Concordia really caught our attention. There's a lot going on there. There's a lot of commerce that's there and coming. It needs adequate housing to continue to grow. And we realized this. We studied your market study and saw an opportunity here. So we feel very confident in this particular parcel of ground that we found. And we think this configuration of housing is exactly what the community needs. And as most of you know, that building costs and construction costs are very difficult right now. Interest rates aren't helping. We're hoping that those come down, but we need incentives. And without those, small communities like Concordia will not be able to be viable in building affordable housing. And the investment tax credit is certainly one of those incentives. RHID is another large incentive that's needed for this particular project. So we're excited about it. We think you'll love the product, and I hope that you'll approve this.
Any question?
I have none. I would move to approve resolution 2025-2211.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hutchison, second by Commissioner Lamberts to approve resolution 2025-2211. Any further discussion?
Thank you for investing in Concordia. It's really nice to have this type of investment and to support housing.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, next we have the reports, starting with the.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And Commissioners, the work that we're doing right now is pretty intense and requires a lot of effort. So really, the past few weeks, we've just been continuing work on housing, the Community Activity Center, various grants that we're working on, and have renewed efforts on the solution for the brown granite windows on the north side as well. We're also preparing for Fall Fest. A lot of our staff has been having a lot of meetings as well as just getting things in order. Fall Fest, we help out with, and we also help out with the homecoming parade that ends at the plaza there to make that a good event for everybody. So just very glad that we're able to assist and help out in both of the community events. Happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Shane's not here this evening. There's the stoplight at Sixth and Lincoln there's a piece of it that appears to have come apart. And he probably is already aware of that, but I'd hate for it to break. Cost more.
We talked about a couple of weeks ago,
I think
weeks ago,
Yeah.
and there's a couple that he's looking at replacing. We're trying to get replaced. Yeah, he's aware of it.
And we have staff reports.
Mayor, Commissioners, good evening. So this year, Fire Prevention Week, it's in October. It'll be the first full week. I believe it's October 6th through the 11th. Last year, the guys started doing a pancake feed and open house. We're going to continue that this year. It'll be on October 12th. That's a Sunday morning from 8 to 1 p.m. Like if you all could stop by, check things out, say hi to everybody. In addition to the open house and the pancake feed this year, we're gonna do a shotgun raffle. So it'll be about $600 raised from the shotgun raffle. All the proceeds from the pancake feed being free will donation, and then the shotgun raffle we're gonna use to put towards the electrical install for our new compressor that we got.
Please say the date again.
October 12th. 8 to 1. 8 to 1.
You get pancakes at that one?
Yep.
Really? We're gonna have it for lunch then. Oh. Great. I had a thought and a question, with fire prevention week coming up. Fire blankets versus fire extinguishers or both. And, what about the idea of potentially maybe giving away fire blankets
Fire blankets, like.
to put out, like, like if you have a small little fire on your stove, you put the blanket over it to put the fire out. Because fire extinguishers, expire,
Yes,
and the blankets,
not to expire, it's that they need to be recharged.
need to be refilled.
Manually,
Yeah.
Yeah, the blankets, small ones, I'm not sure if you're talking about car blankets or, the small ones for like kitchen. I could definitely look into something like that.
I'm just curious if they're effective, if, to your knowledge, and then if that's something that would be beneficial, maybe at some point to consider.
Yeah, they're definitely beneficial. I mean, it's way better than trying to move a burning pan off the oven. Just throw one of those small blankets or a cotton towel or something on it. Yeah, they definitely work very well.
Ask me some questions about my updated demolition.
I was just gonna ask you about your speech, Bruno, but this is probably more important.
You got my report at the very end there, my update, and don't have anything particular to point out, but I know you probably have some questions on the downtown buildings. When I contact them, letters, 3 of them contacted me back. I just tried to call another one today and didn't get I left a message and didn't get a response yet, but that and Lincoln, old Conoco station, we got some activity a while back and had the questions asked, and they did start cleaning up and replace the glass and clean up the inside, but the outside's still a mess. Last I talked to the owner, they were looking to find a contractor to fix that awning. That's been a while, so I need to touch base with some of these entities and get some more updates and put a little more pressure. I don't know what we can do about the downtown buildings, except for if you put them through the condemnation process, then you're gonna have to probably put out the repairs, that you're gonna probably have to get a scope of work and put out the repairs out to bid. And I don't know that, or give the owner the opportunity so many days to start the process, which is pretty standard when you condemn something. You know, if an owner comes in and wants to maybe try to save it or something, you gotta give them an opportunity to, so.
Bruno, I guess my concern is just up here, it takes 5 minutes to take down the wood panel, to take that glass that is just sitting there for Fall Fest. It takes 5 minutes to do that. So it's just a very, I mean.
More of a defiance than it is.
Yeah.
It is, and it's, you know, my concern, I'm sure Marcia's concerned, and we both kind of stare at it, I think, every Saturday morning as you see that, and you just think, gosh, I hope nobody's sitting there when that finally falls. Can that not just be taken care of? I don't know how to incentivize it. I don't want to go through this huge process just to have the common courtesy for your neighbors in your community to take 5 minutes to get a piece of glass down. So, I mean, how do we motivate that? Is this the only way?
Right.
Okay.
All we can do. At a
So-
certain point, you know, I've got 2 letters out
Yeah.
on that building. I don't know what to respond to. Just courtesy letters, you know, so.
So high traffic. It's very different than any other property, really. Take a letter and do it ourselves. We call letter.
Well, we got a fire truck.
So what point does it become a nuisance?
It is now.
So with other nuisances, if they're not addressed in a timely manner, we address the nuisance ourselves and then attach the cost to the property owner. How is this different?
We were working under,
Because the city can't do the work. If you're trying to,
Oh, perhaps the city needs to contract with someone who can do the work.
that's what the answer is to.
Then we,
you have to,
then we attach those fees to,
Taxes.
So are you concerned about just the glass right now before Fall Fest? Okay, so we treat just the glass like a nuisance and then the remainder of the deterioration of the building as condemnation. Is that what you're asking to do? Because we've kind of been treating the whole building as condemnation right now.
Yeah, I think that like satisfies the actual threat of safety, that's immediate safety. Now, there's safety with that entire building when you see bricks coming out of it. But that's more of a longer term, hopefully. This one is very short term. And we're getting into windy season again in October.
well, it's Kansas, it's always windy season.
Yeah, but well, you know.
That liability is always present.
Yeah, you're right.
So we can work to address that window as a nuisance. If there's a clause in the ordinance that allows us to do it for immediate danger, we can go ahead and address that and not have to wait. The window piece of it, the rest of it's gonna take a little time. That work for you, Brendan? Casey?
Well, you don't have,
We got nuisances.
the city can do that work. They mow the grass for a nuisance.
Removing a blade of pane of glass. then-
Yeah, but if it's a nuisance, it'd be the same
I
thing.
think that the differentiation would be, are we talking about structural foundation work, which is not what I was
No.
talking about. I was
No.
talking about
The glass.
getting the glass taken care of, which if we aren't able to do, then fine, we still, you can contract that work out. But pass those costs on, the same as we would any other costs. The foundational work, the structural work is a bigger picture, but, and it's not something I think we're gonna get done before fall. The glass we should be able to get.
We can get the window addressed before Fall Fest. We cannot get the crumbling work addressed.
Yeah.
before Fall Fest.
Right.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. That's all I had. Thank you, Ron, for the report.
And Sherwin-Williams has got a new owner. Sherwin-Williams.
yes, there's a new owner that long, but last year or so, I think the owner's changed. And the guy, said he come up and looked at it and he was looking to get, he even asked me what contractors would be able to do tuck pointing and cleaning that up, and I gave him some contractor names. And that's the last I heard of it. And the same with, 603, Chronicle building. In the back of that, the limestone.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I did notice one of them cleaned up their downspout, got so the water doesn't run down the side of the building anymore. Can't remember which one that was, but and I've got 2 or 3 that are past the deadline that I've written courtesy letters to that they ignored, so we're gonna go ahead and probably put them out to bid and get them done. Yeah,
211 East Fifth,
that's one of them.
that's one of them.
Yeah, you see on the report, I talked to her. She's trying to get a loan so she can pay the down payment for the demolition after she got on the demo program, after we condemned it and took bids on it. And I told her the other day, if they didn't get any action on it first thing, we're gonna have to, go with our original low bid and let them take it all.
Maybe better. I mean, just considering the condition of that place. Thank you
You know,
for the report and all the
Yes.
statistics also.
So just real quick, we're noticing that it's getting towards the end of camping season and campers are starting to show up in town. We're just trying to educate them about not leaving them parked on the street, that they need to go to a designated area. We've already dealt with 2 today alone. So just want to update you, we're watching for campers being parked or trailers, back to those ordinances that we passed last year, I guess it was. And then, next Friday, homecoming, we, with FNA's help, we're Cops and Cones again, so we have ice cream sandwiches we're handing out. We're pretty excited about that. And then starting in the Fall Fest, we'll be out this next week putting flyers on downtown cars to let them know that they need to have their car moved during the main street for Fall Fest parade. So, anything else?
I'm happy to announce that the FEMA project from January 2024 is almost finished. And we finally got a check. The whole project was $50,413, and we have to eat 15% of it. So we got $42,850 and some change. And there's a certification to still be done, and then the project is wrapped up. So this is the winter weather event that we had 5 water main breaks with.
Progress is progress.
Speedy. I'll defer to someone else if there's another project here. Someone else can handle that. John.
Commissioner, comments and reports?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Lambert, second by Commissioner Hutchison to adjourn the meeting. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.